The story of Battleship is a remarkable story of an underdog that prevailed despite incredible hardships that came his way. He prevailed on the most difficult race in the world, which was the British Grand National, and he was the first American-bred and the first American-owned horse to win the race. And it's hard to overstate how important the Grand National was. Horse racing was very popular in England, so about 250,000 people were there the day he won the race. But before he won the race, he had to overcome several obstacles, not the least of which being lame when Mrs. Scott bought him. He was the son of Man o' War, which was America's most famous racehorse, and she had watched him for about a year before she put an offer in on him. She paid $12,000 for him in 1931, and that's about the equivalent of $250,000 today. He was a flat racing horse when she bought him. When she found out that he was a pretty good jumper and a gutsy horse, she thought she would aim him towards the British Grand National. Battleship went over in 1936, and he had another injury at a bowed tendon, which in most horses would be career-ending, but he prevailed over that injury as well. They kept him in training and raced him through the year of 37 and towards the spring of 38. And again, Reg said, I don't think we should race him. I don't think he's the kind of horse that should go. And she said, no, we're sending him. He's going to race. We're going. He said, okay. His son had ridden him on most of his races, and he was only 17 years old. He's still the youngest jockey to have ever ridden in the race and won the race, and he was 6'1". And Battleship was a really small horse. He was 15'2". That means he was about 5 feet 2 inches at the withers, which is very small. Most of the horses were 4 to 8 inches taller than that in the race. They entered him in the race, and she got the ticket, and she arrived in England just a couple days before. And when she arrived, Reg was still trying to talk her out of running the horse. But she said, no, he's going to run. And he said, well, my son has gotten some good offers of good rides on other horses, including the favorites, so I don't think he's going to be able to ride him. And she said, oh, no, your son's ridden him in every race, so what is he getting to ride the other horses? And he said 100 pounds, and she said, I'll pay him 200. And so he rode Battleship, and that's how it came to be. So throughout the race, 44 horses started, 13 finished. It's over 4 miles and 26 fences. Reg told his son, just cruise around the first time. If he gets around the first time, then you can start racing on the second time around. There's a number of jumps that are very famous for their difficulty, and one of them is Betcher's Brook because it's much lower drop on the landing side. Battleship did well at Betcher's the first time around, but at the canal turn where they jump a fence and then make a 45-degree angle, Bruce almost came off. And he said later that he was falling off, but a jockey alongside him grabbed him by the collar and plunked him back on his horse. By the time they got to Betcher's the second time, Battleship was in the lead, and he battled for the lead most of the second time around, in spite of loose horses that were running and several falls. And at the end, the leader, Royal Denali, and Battleship were neck and neck, but they were far apart. Battleship pulled ahead just at the last minute and won by a head. And Mrs. Scott and her friends were in the stands. The only thing she could see was chestnut ears, and she knew the other horse had been a bay. They would have black ears. So she said, I think I won it. But by the time she got back to the hotel, there was a stack of mail in front of her door, up to the door handle, of telegrams and congratulatory letters and notes, and the hotel baked her a cake. So it was a really big deal. Mrs. Scott promised the horse he'd never have to race again if he won the Grand National. She retired him to stud, and he was a very successful stud here at Montpelier. He sired 3 horses that went on to be steeplechase champions, and about half of his prodigy was very successful, and that's an amazing rate. He was ridden up until the very last days of his life around the estate, and he's buried here at Montpelier.